Genuine question. Was Ethan Coen high on acid when he made this movie? Alright, as you're aware, I just saw the new Ethan Coen movie, Drive Away Dolls. We saw what one Coen brother could do by himself when he did The Tragedy of Macbeth, Joel Coen's absolutely masterful Shakespearean adaptation. And Ethan went in a completely different direction with a lesbian road trip heist movie that is full of these interesting stylistic choices. Some of them work and some of them really don't. And overall, I came away from it feeling pretty torn overall. This movie follows two characters, one played by Margaret Qualley and one played by Geraldine Viswanathan, in this really wacky movie where they unintentionally steal something and without their knowledge they're actually being tracked and hunted down. And they get up to all sorts of hijinks. It's really about one character who is really open sexually, trying to get the other one out of their shell, and the other character trying to get Margaret Qualley, who is just not really attaching herself to anyone, into something a little bit more committed and meaningful. It is an interesting concept, but I do think Ethan Coen at times gets a little bit ahead of himself here, because at times it seems like it's almost half-assed in some aspects. It wants to commit fully and at times to some aspects of this narrative and some social commentary as well, but it doesn't commit enough and it just feels really tacked on. Drive Away Dolls can feel like a extended episode of a television show rather than a feature-length film, and it seems like he's trying to pad this out with some kind of meaningless stylistic choices. Talking real positively first, I really dug the opening scene. I thought it was full of everything I could have wanted in this film. It was sick and twisted, yet it had this comedic edge to it, while having a very interesting style that kind of reminds you of a noir film from the 40s or 50s, but with this really popping color that just works and makes the scene look so beautiful. And I was on board in that very opening scene. And even after that, when we start getting introduced to all these characters, I was on board with them. I found them all likable enough. I connected with them. I thought that they were hilarious at moments. So to begin with, I was all for this movie. However, once it progresses, you start to realize that this is kind of a one-trick pony of a movie. It doesn't really evolve from what it sets out to do in the opening act. And some of you might really enjoy that, but for me, I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted a bit more progression here. And the humor as well. It starts off funny, but as I said, it's kind of a one-trick pony. It kind of plays the same humor over and over and over again, the same joke over and over and over again. And by the end of the film, it's not funny anymore. The novelty has worn off. And this has some really bizarre stylistic choices that at times really work. The editing is so flashy and, as I said, at times does really work. And at other times it looks like amateur hour. It looks like something from Funniest Home Videos at times. It just can get really distracting and it doesn't feel like it fits properly into this movie. There's also these really strange psychedelic moments that kind of cut away and feel distracting and just grind the pacing to a halt. It feels like Ethan Coen's trying to do something really creative and interesting here, but the film in of itself isn't psychedelic. So when you just throw in 2 or 3 just random psychedelic cutaway moments, it makes no sense. It has no place in this movie. In terms of what they are, I'm fine with it, but the movie doesn't really support those choices enough to justify their existence. So I found that a little bit frustrating at times. And I find it all frustrating because there's great potential in this movie. I do think that this film hits some real highs at moments, especially that opening scene like I mentioned, but the performances are great from the entire ensemble. And I found them all pretty easy to connect with. And there's just some great little supporting members in this cast that just do a fantastic job. Coleman Domingo is one of them. He has this one monologue that I was very engaged watching. And I just wanted a little bit more of that, a little bit more of pushing this narrative forward and giving it some urgency and being a little bit more than just this one-trick pony that wants to do the same thing over and over and over again, just with different people. Another supporting performance that I really enjoyed was that of Beanie Feldstein. I thought she was hilarious in this movie, and I wanted to see more of her. She just has this real angry style of comedy that she brings into this movie. It's really aggressive, and it feels different to the stuff that we've been getting throughout this entire film. It really just mixes up the dynamics of these characters, as well as adding a new piece to the humor that, as I said, just keeps it engaging, keeps it flowing. And I would have liked to have seen more from her. Felt like it was a missed opportunity not to include her and Carmen Domingo in this movie more, because I just thought they were brilliant from start to finish. I also think the framing and the cinematography looks brilliant overall throughout this entire film. There's a great use of Dutch angles in this film that I thought were highly effective. Almost felt Quentin Tarantino-esque at times, or Nicholas Winding Refn at times. And I really like that. And it's not really something I've seen too much from the Coen brothers. I think this is quite a fascinating project in of itself as well, in terms of seeing the differences to what both Joel and Ethan Coen bring to the screen. Joel Coen made The Tragedy of Macbeth a very serious film that has this black and white minimalist production design and focuses on these incredible powerhouse performances from Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. While Ethan Coen makes this really laid-back movie that's full of this just really quirky humor. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. And it's just wacky overall. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So I just find that fascinating how different these two voices are. And when they come together, they're a great dynamic duo. Overall, while I did enjoy a lot of the moments in Drive Away Dolls and found it funny at points and had some interesting stylistic choices that can benefit this film, what it does great, it equally does poorly in those elements, and that's very frustrating because you just want the best for it and you can see the potential on the screen. This is apparently going to be the beginning of a trilogy of movies, so I'm interested in seeing where Ethan Coen is going to take the next two films, if we're going to be following the same set of characters or new characters just with a similar theme. Whatever it is, I am interested. I am on board in seeing the other two because it is a little bit different to what we're used to in the cinema. However, I will have my expectations in check because this just didn't quite hit like I wanted it to. It felt like a nice watch when I was watching it, but I won't think about too much after this. As a score, I'm going to give Drive Away Dolls a 3 out of 5. And those are my thoughts towards this film, Drive Away Dolls. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I feel like this one's going to be pretty mixed. It's really hard to recommend this to a wide audience, but I feel like the niche that it hits will be very passionate about this movie. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.